third week in a row, the iRacing IndyCar Series heads to a completely different sort of racetrack. After the rolling hills of Brazelton, Georgia played host to a fuel-saving masterclass claim by Adam Blocker, we head for the jewel in the desert on the 1-mile short oval of the Phoenix Raceway. Hello everyone, delighted to have your company once again here on RaceSpotTV for Monday night IndyCar action. Alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, Andrew Kinsella joins me in the commentary booth. And Andrew, it's been a monumentally interesting start to this campaign. Brandon Traino, Adam Blocker have had it out over the last couple of weeks. New faces have shown their strength to climb to the top of the championship standings, but in a 12-week season where only the best 8 weeks count, today is where we'll start to see the driver's strength on this short oval package.
Absolutely. We may be at a short oval, but we won't be short on action here today. We've got a fantastic race in store for us today. Very strong field here today with a number of drivers that we haven't necessarily seen too much of on Monday nights, but they're very strong in the IndyCar community, and definitely looking forward to seeing what they are going to do here tonight. But it is definitely going to be one of those races where I think we're really going to see which teams and which drivers are really serious about the championship here today and this season, and whether it's the power slide dominance that we saw last season, that's gone by the wayside. We've already seen that Brandon Traino and i5G have been so strong so far, and this is just going to really see whether or not they're going to be strong on not just road and big ovals, but short ovals as well. And I think that's going to be really the storyline here today is, will i5G continue the dominance that they've shown so far?
150 laps here today. Pit window about 60 laps, so we'll see if a caution plays out some more drama. We'll have to wait and see. Visits to Long Beach, Auto Club, the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and Barbara all on the horizon, two of those coinciding with the NTT IndyCar Series. Let's have a quick look at how the championship has run itself down. Adam Blocker missing out on points in round number 1. Brandon Traino missing out on points in round number 2. As a result, the two title favorites find themselves outside of the top 5, but the likes of David Porcelli, Adam Crane, Will Lyon taking full advantage of that. And again, the thing to remember when we look at these championship standings, Andrew, is the fact that 12 championship weeks, only 8 of those point totals will count to the overall championship standings.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the nice things about the iRacing format in the official series is you can have 1 or 2 bad races and it won't affect your shot at the championship. You look at the likes of Alexis Newsom, who didn't really come out last week. She's really got a good shot at it here today. In fact, she's right now currently sitting on pole with just 5 seconds left, so it's going to be very interesting to see whether she can bounce back from that showing last week.
The time for talking is done. The time for racing is upon us. Let's get ready to go trackside here from the Phoenix Raceway. The sun is baking down on the track. What a great view we have here at the facility formerly known as the ISM Raceway. We're ready for 150 laps. Let's not dawdle any longer. Let's talk to you about what we've got in store for us here. It's an i5G lockout of the front row. Alexis Newsom, Brandon Traino, 4,000 splits them. What a great qualifying attempt there from AJ Musselman. He'll start inside of row 2 with Andrew Marquez, pole position on the Richmond short oval last season, backing that performance up with a 4th place starting spot. Marco Brazil will line up behind his teammate from the inside of row 3, while the Canadian Adam Crane back in 6th position. Robert Malechka, Chris Wilhite, lots of work for Malechka to do from inside of that row 4, while Adam Blocker, disappointing for him to start back in 9th. He'll be alongside Connor Harrington to complete the top 10. Aaron McQuarrie, David Porcelli, 11th and 12th. You'll find a championship leader on the outside of that 6th row. Matt Hollabaugh and Rodrigo Franzoni, 13th and 14th. Robin Glennox, David Henger, 15th and 16th, while separating Gil Ribeiro and Rashad Craig, just 0.005 of a second between them. Final cars with qualifying lap times on the board. Laura Gerhardt and Alexander Van der Sande. Another disappointing qualifying for Van der Sande after yesterday in the Indy Elite Series at the Worldwide Technology Raceway. Brian spots the final car that will be lining up in our grid here today. Let's talk a little bit about this track then. 1 mile in length. It's the big thing to really talk about here, Andrew, isn't necessarily the banking or anything like that. Instead, it's the different start zone that NASCAR introduced that might cause a bit of havoc on the restarts.
Yeah, I definitely think that'll be a big adjustment for the drivers here tonight. It's one of those things where you've for so long been where what is between what is now turns 3 and 4. That is for so long been the traditional start zone that I think a lot of people will be sort of forgetful and just not necessarily realize where they are on the track, and then they realize, oh yeah, we've got one more turn to go before we actually get to the green or get to the yellow flag or get to the checkered flag, more importantly at the end. So I think that's definitely a sort of a little bit of a monkey wrench that's been thrown these drivers' way, but ultimately you always have to race back to the line and race as hard as you can all the way until you see that checkered flag. So that's, I think, what most of these drivers will do, and I don't anticipate any real problems here.
IndyCar is about multiple different types of racetracks. We're going short track racing, early jump from Malechka as soon as the pace car pulled off, so we're racing before the green actually flies. We're racing for 150 laps. Great start there, from Alexis Newsom as Brandon Trainor now funnels into line. Couple of tenths splitting them. You'll see multiple lines run through turns 3 and 4, but safely through this opening lap and a half, i5G leads the way.
Yeah, really, really early start from these drivers. They just kind of went on the pace car rather than staying in line, and it'll be interesting to see whether there were any penalties, because I noticed a number of drivers changing lines, and you're not really supposed to be able to do that with the IndyCar in iRacing, so it'll be interesting to see if anybody got caught out and maybe got a penalty from that. But right now we've got 3 wide action here. Connor Harrington going side by side with the power slide drivers here.
Blockers had a decent start to the race, but plenty of ground to work forward as yellow flag flies, and it is Matt Holliber that brings it out here. Big incident for him, but it looks like everyone else survives, and he's going to do the needful thing and try and pull it straight down onto pit road, but maybe that's just significant damage to his car. Let's go see exactly what happened to him here. So it was working through turns 3 and 4. He was already marred in the mid-pack behind Rodrigo Franzoni. Gets a bit of dirty air, and I think has to slow his momentum, and that's Robin Glennox who comes straight into the back of him.
Yeah, there's not much that Rob could have done there. Holliba just got way out of the throttle there, and Rob really had nowhere to go. I think, as you say, it's just a case of dirty air, and then Holliba really tried to sort of diamond off the corner, but I think he probably got farther off the throttle than he really intended to there. And when you're that committed in the middle of a corner, as Robin Glennox is, there's almost nothing you can do at that point to avoid the car that's sort of changed lanes right in front of you.
That's the beauty of this track, right, is you have to be so committed, and decision-making is paramount, and a decision to be made, I think, is whether drivers will be coming down onto pit lane. Malechka's come in, which is an interesting call. Glennox had the damage, so he's going to come in as well, but the only other car to have made a pit stop here is Laura Gerhardt. What do you think about this call from Malechka, who's now 11 positions down from where he started this race?
I think in the case of Malechka, where he is in the back half of the top 10, there's no harm in coming down and seeing what some pit strategy can do. At a short track like this, it's very difficult to pass once you get towards the lead of the race. So if he can find a way to make this strategy work and cycle him towards the front, this could be something that really sets himself apart from his teammates and from the other cars, is if he's able to just get out front. But that's a big if. Right now, he's going to be mired way, way back in the pack, and it's going to be a tall order for him to get back up where he was running before.
One thing that I think caught both of us off and very much by surprise is where drivers are going to elect to start this race. It's basically at the discretion of your leader. As soon as the pace car's off of turn 4, whether old turn 4, I guess now it's technically turn 2, right, Andrew? Whether they want to get on the jump or not. It's something that we're going to maybe see a bit of chaos here, maybe stacking the field up, but I guess if you're the leader, it behooves you to get on the throttle as soon as you can.
It could or it couldn't. So one of the things about this configuration is it does give them a very, very wide start zone, so you can potentially hold the field up a little bit and then get the jump just by delaying it just a little bit, but we'll see what happens.
There we go, early jump again. This time Alexis Newsom not breaking away from Brandon Trainor in the same vein. i5G 1 and 2, Indy Alliance 3 and 4. And then Andrew Marquez rounds out the top 5. Only swap inside that top 5, at least for the time being, is Marco Brazil getting past Andrew Marquez through turns 1 and 2. It's always tricky as, oh, Newsom getting a little bit wiggly there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that happens with the setups on these cars. In order to get the car to rotate through the corners later on in the run, they're very, very loose early on in these runs, especially for the first 3 or 4 laps. So this is definitely the danger zone for a lot of these drivers in terms of just having to hold on and white knuckle it through these first few laps until the car really starts to settle in.
Malechko making a move on Gil Ribeiro, but now has a 1 second disadvantage to those in front of him as he'll try to work his way forward. David Porcelli alongside with Aaron McQuarrie as they work themselves in towards turn 2. Matt Holloway has tried to get that car fixed, but straight away brings it back down onto pit road. Tight through the middle of the corner as Porcelli loses some speed. He falls back into line as Marco Brazil gets past the muscle man.
Yeah, just a little bit of fighting between the Indy Alliance teammates there, and it does look like Marco Brazil at this point in the run is just a little bit faster than his teammate Musselman. Brazil, I think he's really going to be anxious to try and run down those 2 i5G cars in the lead, but right behind them we've got a hornet's nest with Adam Crane, Adam Blocker, and Connor Harrington really looking to get forwards here.
You can see the different lines being taken as Holloway has actually now managed to get back out. Remember, there's an issue where you really have to take the toe to be able to fix at least steering damage on that car as Porcelli's going to try and slide up the track. Room given from both of them. Longer distance for Macquarie around the outside, but a bit more momentum being rolled through the middle of the corner as they continue to go side by side. Blocker starting to get chopped up behind Adam Crane as they close on Marquez. Harrington trying to have a look down low.
And that's the thing with having someone as aggressive as Connor Harrington right behind you. You make one wrong move and he's going to try and pounce. That's exactly what Harrington does here. Crane is sort of running both lanes here. So 1 minute he's feeding the dirty air to Harrington, the other he's feeding it to Blocker, and it's using that technique. Oh, as Blocker really comes down in front of Harrington.
Yeah, that was aggressive. A bit more aggressive than you want to see. What, 15 laps into his race. Quick look at the track conditions. You can see 3 p.m. here in the desert. Not going to get too much cooler, I'd say. 43 degrees Celsius on the track itself, 27 ambient. Pretty strong gusts of wind though, Andrew. That might be something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the short track oval package, it's really affected by that gusting wind. And as we see Adam Crane taking a look at Andrew Marquez back and actually does complete the pass there. So really nice move from Adam Crane. And now Blocker is trying to find a way through Marquez, and it does look like Marquez is sort of the cork in the bottle right now.
Race pace struggling a little bit. We saw at Richmond that he was pretty consistent though. That was something that we were really impressed by as we look rearwards from Crane. Is actually now looks like Blocker might come under fire. This time again, Connor Harrington getting a great run off the corner. He'll dive down low once more, but going low is not the easiest place to make a pass happen, and Blocker's showing why you can use that momentum on the outside to defend from those behind.
Momentum is so important at a place like Phoenix here. It just allows you to carry that speed that you just can't get on the bottom. And the other thing is that the bottom, if you're not clear of the car on top of you, you just can't accelerate like you want to, and you can't carry the momentum all the way up to the top. So you really need to make sure when you make these moves, especially if you have pressure from the back, that you're able to clear the person, because otherwise exactly what happened to Adam Blocker there. Harrington really started to harry him for a couple of laps here, and he's not done with that battle just yet.
Talk to us about the setup here, Andrew. How loose are these guys? How much are they really wrangling this car around? Because such high speeds, you've got some downforce, yes, but what's the saying? A fast car is a loose car.
Yeah, so basically what the setup here is, generally speaking, is it's mechanically tight and aerodynamically loose. So what that produces is early on in the run, where you still have a lot of the aero package really working and your speed's still really high, is you're going to be in for a very loose car, but it really starts to wear out the right front. And as you wear out that right front, it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter as this run goes on. So that's what these drivers are starting to fight now, is just which setup that they have will allow them to maintain that right front the best and to keep on rotating the car, because it's very difficult to keep the tires under you for a full stint here.
Good battle going on right now between Alexander Van der Sant and Rodrigo Franzoni. This is 12th position as Van der Sant dives down low after a difficult qualifying for him. He's got lots of work to do. Matt Holliver, I think, might just be calling it quits because another issue for him. He's towed it back to pit lane. He's been trying patiently to get that car repaired, but looks like too little, too late for him. Van der Sant in the dirty air. Brian spots behind him. Rashad Craig in 15th, and Malechka, the first car to have come down pit lane. I wonder if maybe Malechka's thinking if we go green from where we had the caution fly to the end of this race, maybe he can try and do something on the strategy, because a 60-lap pit window, I mean, 10 laps or so into this race, you are asking for a lot, but interesting. I'm still not sure about the strategy there.
Yeah, I think what Malechka was hoping for was a caution flag coming out pretty soon, just to allow him to maybe cycle to the front and use some of that clean air to his advantage, but I just don't think it's happened for him. So there will be some things that he can do, I think, as the race goes on to maybe get himself back to where he was, but I don't know that this call has really worked out for him at this point.
Great view that Barney the flagman has here. As you see the speed we've had now, a 20-odd lap green flag run since that one and only caution so far. Here comes Blocker trying to apply the pressure to Andrew Marquez.
And I must say that Andrew Marquez has not let Adam Crane really disappear either, so he's doing a great job of, after maybe not having the fastest car at the beginning, just as you said before, Marquez is really good at keeping his car nice and consistent throughout the run, and I think that's what we're seeing from him right now.
On board look with Connor Harrington, who gets a good run out of the corner to try and get to the inside of Blocker once more. It's fourth, fifth time the charm. Doesn't look like it's going to be. How much is Harrington burning up his tires here?
It is probably burning it up a fair bit, but at the same time, when he's able to get beside Blocker, it does give him a little bit extra clean air, because the main thing that's really a problem for Harrington is he's following so close behind Adam Blocker that he just doesn't get any air on his front or rear wings, and it's just not allowing him to really cool those tires off. So every time he ducks down there, it's probably actually helping him a little bit more than it's hurting him in terms of tire wear.
So this is the battle here. Up front, 6/10 splits the Team I5G teammates. Newsom leads from Treno. Brazil is now 2.5 seconds back and falling about a tenth a lap or so back from the leaders. So great pace from the i5G cars as Blocker once again will go to work trying to get down low on Andrew Marquez, getting closer and closer to the pit stop window.
And it does seem like a little bit of a cycle here as Blocker tries to go low, and then Connor Harrington yo-yos himself back up onto the back of Adam Blocker, takes another run at him. So I think it's just one of those cases where we're sort of at this treacherous equilibrium as Harrington throws it to the outside of Blocker. Blocker nearly gets into Harrington, and I think Harrington is going to have this around the outside this time.
That's great opportunistic driving to get that one done. Sometimes what you need is that foresight to back things up and see what's happening in front of you. And I said this yesterday in the BMW Sim GT Cup. Sometimes when that car in front goes on the offense, really what it needs to be thinking about a little bit more is the defensive portion of things. Now Harrington might have burned through his tires a little bit running down low, trying to work again. Try and now get to the inside of Marquez, and I tell you what, he's going to slide on through. Marquez might try and roll the momentum, but Harrington will slide up, and great move from Connor Harrington once again.
Yeah, I think what we're really seeing from Harrington is he's really able to roll the outside through turn one, and it's just allowing him to create that momentum down the backstretch. And as we see Adam Blocker also trying to move on Andrew Marquez now, well, let's see if Blocker can get clear. No, he can't. Marquez is still there. Now, finally, Blocker does get in front of Andrew Marquez. So that's released both Harrington and Blocker now, but it's also cost Blocker one position relative to Connor Harrington.
Patience sometimes is a virtue, and Blocker showing some good patience there. But now we'll have to try and set his sights further forward to try and close again on Connor Harrington, who's having a look down low on Adam Crane. Now, Adam Crane was a spotter and a strategist for Connor Harrington during last week's Lionheart IndyCar Series race. They go from working together to working against one another, but Harrington might have a better car in the long run here. And just like we saw before, the car behind able to get a good run while cars were fighting in front of him, and Blocker is going to follow Harrington through. That
was super close between Adam Crane and Adam Blocker there. Blocker nearly got into the back of Crane through turns 2 and 3 there, but yeah, Blocker, as you see, he just can't make that inside work, either through turns 2 and 3 or through turn 4 here. It just doesn't seem to be working, but I don't know that Blocker's really feeling strong enough to go to the outside like Harrington is, so it's definitely, I think, oh, Crane gets turned by Adam Blocker there.
But the caution hasn't come out just yet. Now that's an interesting thing to see, as looks like Crane is going to roll that car very, very gingerly back down to pit road here.
Yeah, so that's one of those things where as Crane gets into the wall again in turn 1, he's obviously got very little steering there, but because Crane never really got perpendicular to the track there, the iRacing caution flag just didn't go there, so that's probably a double whammy for Crane there, as he doesn't even get the benefit of getting his damage fixed under caution, but definitely an unfortunate incident there. But we've already into this race, just 40 laps into this race, we're already encountering some lap traffic here, Arjuna.
Big moves being made by Connor Harrington through the traffic as he gets himself now past AJ Musselman, who's sliding backwards. Apologies for the technical difficulties that we're having. We'll get the graphics back up on screen as soon as we can. Blocker's going to go around the outside. Gil Ribeiro, I believe that car is. That's going to give him some draft, but not also being the easiest to pass just yet. AJ Musselman, from being up in third, now finds himself in sixth, maybe struggling a little bit with the in-car tools.
Yeah, I think that Musselman's set probably just isn't working quite the way he wants it to. It does look like he's understeering just a little bit too much, especially in this dirty air from Gil Ribeiro. He's just not able to handle the traffic like some of these other teams are. So unfortunate for Musselman to lose those positions with the traffic, but that's just part of the game here, is you need to be able to have a car that works well both in clean air and in traffic as well.
Van der Sant starting to climb his way up. Now 10 positions gained inside of the top 10. Next car he's going to work on is Chris Wilhite, so looking good for him, as Marquez now will be the next car to try and work on the Musselman further up through the field. 4 seconds, the buffer that i5G has at the front of this field. Marco Brazil only about 1.2 seconds clear of Connor Harrington, with a further 1.2 seconds back to Adam Blocker as things stand. You can also see there's plenty of cloud cover over the track, Andrew. It's gotten pretty dark pretty quickly as Van der Sant slides his way past Chris Wilhite.
And I'm sure these drivers are welcoming that cloud cover, because the track temperature has definitely been on the higher side in this Arizona sun that we've had so far. So any cloud cover is going to give them just that little bit extra grip and allow them to go just that little bit faster, and most importantly, preserve those tires just that little bit extra.
Here comes Malechka down low, trying to sweep his way through on the inside, not cutting down below the apron, which sometimes you do see. It was something that Empty Box has done on occasion as well, if you are a fan of him, as he's got one car feeding him some dirty air. Macquarie will hold off and now duck down low. Nice little fight going on here back in the pack, as Macquarie should actually be able to slide up in front of Wilhite. Through the run, we are starting to see cars migrating up high, Andrew. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so basically, because of what I was describing earlier, where you just lose that right front tire, you really have to start looking at that outside lane, just because you just don't have the ability to turn the car into the corner like you did at the beginning of the run. So like you look at the likes of Chris Wilhite, he just can't get that car to turn through any of the majorly banked corners here, and he just needs to open up the corner and allow him to try and get whatever momentum he can. But it's definitely a losing battle, because once you start to lose that tire, you basically can't get it back.
Bocelli gets passed by Van der Sant. Harrington is closing as well on Marco Brazil. Chris Wilhite has ducked to pit lane. Rodrigo Franzoni did so the lap before, so a bit earlier than expected, but maybe these cars starting to struggle very significantly on the long run. Now let's go ahead though and pick apart what happened with Adam Crane as well as Adam Blocker. As yellow flag flies, we'll take a quick look at this and then we'll figure it out. In fact, let's go straight to go ahead and figure out why we've got the yellow flag out on track. It's Gil Ribeiro, I do believe. That's big damage to his car.
Yeah, definitely some major damage to Gil Ribeiro, and I think he just got his signals crossed with a lead lap car here.
Well, we'll see. So that would be Aaron McQuarrie, I guess, in the bright orange car as they come down into what is turn 3 now. Always confuses me. So a bit more speed for McQuarrie, and he's trying to find the lane that he wants to run. He'll come down low. Ribeiro's mirror is now filled as well by Malechka, and yeah, there's that miscommunication. We'll try and grab a look on board maybe with Malechka. He would have had a pretty good view of what was going on.
Just unfortunate here. I really think that Ribeiro needed to give McQuarrie just more room there. There is a little bit of air between the cars at this point, but at the same time, knowing that Ribeiro is a lap down and that McQuarrie is on the lead lap and fighting with a car coming up right behind him, I think if I'm Ribeiro, I just need to give some more space on the outside there and really let these lead lappers through there. So just an unfortunate racing incident, though. But we definitely have had some pit stops on this caution because I'm sure changes. All of these drivers were very in need of new tires.
Yeah, well, not just that. We were coming to the end of the fuel window, but Alexis Newsom, an 11.2 second stop for her, has meant that she's now dropped back to 4th. So the car that's been in clean air for the entirety of the race so far has got a very different proposition to now be dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to see if there was anything with Alexis's pit stop. I'm not sure. It looks like she just was slow on the jacks, to be quite honest. I'm not sure why.
I wonder if maybe there was also a wing change going on. Let's go, though. And it's been a while. Let's try and see what happened between Crane and... Oh, that's a healthy dose of air as well.
Yeah, that one... I mean, they had been racing very close for a while, but at the same time, you can't blame anyone for that one because... Yeah, there's just too much air between the two. Really unfortunate that Crane came out on the wrong side of that because it was really shaping up to be, I think, a good battle between Harrington, Blocker, and Crane for most of this race because they all seem to be very close on pace. So unfortunate incident there with Crane and Blocker.
So Brandon Traynor will be your lead car as soon as the couple of lapped cars will cycle through. That includes Crane, who is 6 laps down from the field, so at least we'll get one of those back potentially. Then you've got Chris Wilhite as well, Rodrigo Franzoni, who by pitting before the caution drop did cycle a lap down. Might actually still be a lap down based on the timing and scoring, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think we still have Wilhite and Franzoni are the two drivers still one lap down here,
well, they'll get
if my timing is correct.
Yeah, they'll get cleared around, and they are going to still be one lap down. Word from i5G, what happened to Alexa? She didn't release the clutch, which explains why maybe she was slow off of pit road, and that's now going to really cost her because she's got Harrington and Blocker in front, who both cars looked pretty decent on the long run. But now we'll wait and see. Remember, the pace car will pull off as soon as we round ourselves through turn 2 here. Brandon Traynor in control of the field, a place that he is very, very familiar with being. But now, when will he choose to go? He's got the field at his disposal. He's got plenty of time before the green flag flies. Here we go racing. Second caution comes to an end, and Brandon Traynor gets a 7-car length advantage over Connor Harrington before we even get to the green flag. Nice start at the front. 4 cars breaking away, a bit of separation, then back to Marco Brazil. Now they've got to get up to speed, and we'll see what Newsom does in dirty air.
And not only will we see what Newsom does in dirty air, but we'll also see how some of these other teams stack up against the i5G team, because no offense to the Indy Alliance team, but their car did not look necessarily that happy on the long run with AJ Musselman and Marco Brazil. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with these new teams in Team Talent and Power Slide up near the front here, vis-a-vis the pace of i5G so far.
Macari and Porcelli with Malechka then behind them. That early gamble for pitting didn't work for that number 1 car. Highest I rating in the field at, what's it, 6,900 basically, 6,899. Macari able to get a bit of separation. The Muscleman and Van der Sant duking it out amongst themselves as well, a little bit further forward. Good recovery drive so far from Van der Sant, but he's still got some work to do to try and replicate the point scoring potential that we saw from him last season. While out front, half a second splits Harrington and Traino. Lap traffic, bit of chaos caused with Adam Blocker, who's become somewhat separated, might fall into the clutches of Alexis Newsom.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Blocker isn't able to hang with Traino and Harrington up front. Harrington doing a great job of staying with the leader Traino right now, but Adam Blocker under fire from Alexis Newsom, and it definitely looks like she is itching to get back towards the front and regain her spot on the podium here.
Meanwhile, Van der Sant down low on the muscle man as he slides up the track and gets that position. Will he block the momentum, the run from Musselman? He doesn't have to. He's up into 6 now. 0.6 of a second back from the next Indy Alliance car in Marco Brazil, who has fallen 1.6 off the pace compared to Alexis Newsom in front of him. So getting closer and closer to the halfway window as Brian Spots and David Porcelli now will be duking out amongst each other. Spots gets on through, Craig gets on through as well. Porcelli sliding backwards after taking advantage of the first stint and a half that we had to work his way forward. Harrington doing a good job to not be dropped by your leader Traino. How hard is it to follow in dirty air here?
It's incredibly difficult, especially when the car in front of you has clean air like Traino does. So the fact that Harrington is able to stay with Traino right now, if I were Traino, I'd actually be probably just a little bit worried that Harrington is doing this good of a job, because it's definitely clear that while the Team Talent car might not have had the best qualifying pace, it certainly has good race pace here and is able to follow in clean air, and I think it'll be scary if it actually ever gets out into the front as well.
Looking as well at that battle for third is the i5G car that's following well. Good signs after Newsom led the early portions of the race. Lap traffic didn't seem to deter her as well, which is something that you do want to keep in mind with this sort of a race with just a 1 mile track and still 20 cars. Oh, caution flies again. Who is involved this time? Rodrigo Franzoni and Robin Glenix, I believe, the 2 cars, as Franzoni's going very slow down on the what is now the start straight. So 2 cars involved, and Glenix has already had to take the tow, so whatever happened, it was a big impact between the 2 of them. It would have been into turn 3 and 4, so watch the run out of here. Franzoni goes up nice and high to get the momentum off the corner, and look at the speed that he's able to carry. And Glenix might try and squeeze. Franzoni tries the up and under, and well, he just runs into the back of Glenix there.
Yeah, I think Franzoni might have had just a little bit of damage because he brushed the wall coming out of turn 3 there, and then he tries to go underneath of Glenix, and I think Glenix just slowed a little bit more than Franzoni was really expecting him to there, and coupled with what might have been just a little bit of damage and not the ability to turn that he wanted to there, I think it was just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, good call on the steering damage, because I missed that, but you'll just see the line that was being taken here. Franzoni's on the yellow. It's never really a line for that car to go into. And David Porcelli's had an issue now as well. He's had to take a tow back onto pit lane, so I'm not sure what's happened to him under this caution, but big drama then for multiple of your competitors as another cycle of pit stops for the likes of Marco Brazil, AJ Musselman, David Henger, Laura Gerhard, Porcelli as well. Curious what you think about this call to come down and pit.
Again, this is one of those things where we didn't really have enough green flag running to really wear out your tires, but at the same time, if you're in the back half of the field, there's no real harm in doing this and trying something different, and maybe a yellow flag comes out at the right time and you're able to cycle towards the front. But it's definitely one of those calls where you need a yellow to come out at the exact right time to make the leaders pit while you still have enough tires to stay out. Other than that, there's really, to me, no point in pitting so soon after we've just come down pit road.
Couple people suggesting some malicious intent that would lead to a nice holiday for Rodrigo Franzoni, but fortunately Nim Cross is the one that has to decide that, not us up here in the commentary booth. Let's go and see exactly what happened to David Porcelli here, because it is slightly interesting. You'll see he gets just short of his box, and then has to tow to get into the box. Not sure if you can give us any insight as to what might have happened there, Andrew.
The only thing that I can think of is that maybe he had some damage that he was hoping if he towed it would fix. Other than that, I don't know why he would do that.
That's a good point, actually. I forgot. I mentioned it before, and I'd already forgotten about that little thing where sometimes it's better for you to tow than to roll it into the box. And I guess it would have been a little shorter of a tow for him there. Let's grab another look at what happened with Rodrigo Franzoni. We'll grab a super slow-mo. First starting out of turn 4, you'll see he'll just wash up into the outside wall. Immediate steering damage. And now take a look from the roll bar as we'll see here. I can see why they're suggesting there's malicious intent. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But at the same time, with Franzoni, he wasn't very quickly drifting out to the outside. Like, it definitely looked like he was able to keep the car on line there. So part of me thinks that I don't think he thought that Rob Unglenix would slow as much as he did there.
Well, it's our third caution of the day. We've now got a split strategy amongst these teams, amongst these drivers. Traino in control again, gets a nice launch as they round themselves through turn 2. Green flag won't fly until they get themselves out of turn 4, and you can see Malechka being a little bit conservative, trying not to get too much momentum to try and get past Andrew Marquez, but will it open the door for Brian Spotts? We'll have to wait and see. Good launch from Traino, Harrington, Blocker, and Newsom. In fact, looks like a battle might be going on between Newsom and Blocker, but outside line seems to be the way to roll your speed, and Blocker holds on for now, but now 410 splits him from the group in front.
This is really Newsom's opportunity to try and get back in front of Blocker, but we've got a fight here between Brian Spotts and Robert Malechka, and you can see Malechka, he has now made up most of the spots that he did lose from that early pit stop. So it might not have played out the way Malechka wanted it, but at least it hasn't hurt him too badly in this race as it's shaken out so far, at least.
What do we say? Hindsight is 20/20. I think maybe Malechka we can get word from him potentially post-race what he was thinking there, but never count him out now in 8th position. A couple more cautions. Might just play things out in his direction. So getting to the halfway marker, remember the fuel window about 60 laps here, so the magic number is 90. If we get a caution around that marker, you'd expect to see cars down on towards pit lane. Not much tire fall off, but at the same time, there does seem to be some amount of tire fall off. Update on David Porcelli, about 40 seconds inside of the pit stall itself after taking that shortened tow. He stayed on the lead lap, and so if he had any damage, well, that is a blessing in disguise. Well, not in disguise, right there.
Yeah, I definitely think that he was trying to get some way his damage repaired, and it definitely looks like whatever happened, he's going just fine towards the back of the field right now. He is the last car on the lead lap, but at least it seems like he's going okay. But meanwhile, we've got a battle towards the front of the race. Traino is still leading Connor Harrington, but right behind them, Alexis Newsom is really harrying the back of Adam Blocker right now.
But at this point in the race, do you wonder if maybe for Newsom there would be some benefit to thinking more strategically? Because clearly you can get the pass done, but it might just cost you time by forcing Blocker to run some different lines. And maybe you think about trying an undercut. We're saying that there's not much tire wear, so maybe the benefit of the undercut is significantly reduced, but whatever you think, maybe there's some play on strategy in pit lane to get you to the front of the field.
Yeah, I think if I'm Alexis Newsom, at least at this point, what I'm trying to do is get around Adam Blocker, because he definitely seems like the weak link of the top 3 right now in terms of pace, and Alexis definitely seems like she has the faster car, so what I'd be trying to do is get around Adam Blocker, get back onto the back of Connor Harrington, and see if the top 3 maybe can break away a little bit from the power slide car, because obviously Alexander Van de Sant, who's had a wonderful drive through the field so far, up into 5th place after starting 20th, I might add, he's now going to start harrying the back of Alexis Newsom pretty quickly if she doesn't get around Blocker here.
It is 9/10 the deficit, though, so that is a big margin to make up. There you can see your movers and shakers, not just Van der Sant, but even Harrington pretty good after making a mistake in qualifying from what we're hearing. He's +8. Brian Spotts is up 4 as well. Good day for Rashard Craig in that 15 machine to be almost double digits gain from where he was starting. and that indication that not just qualifying pace, not representative of where you are in your full fuel run and how your race pace is going to turn out. But again, it's something to think about, Andrew, where qualifying here is so high speed, so high commitment, you're on edge so much that you make a mistake with the tools, you make a mistake with the line, and there's your qualifying, you'll lose several tenths, and at a just under 20-second lap time, a couple of tenths is a huge margin.
And that's not 4 spots, but 14 spots for Brian Spots. He's done a wonderful job getting up into the top 10 here from a 21st qualifying position. But one of the things you mentioned is just a couple tenths off can really make a difference. You already see we're once again overhauling Gil Ribeiro, and we're into that lap traffic area again. So being just a couple tenths off at a track like this where the lap time is under 20 seconds per lap, that's one of those things where you only have to be a couple of tenths off, and then suddenly your lap traffic, suddenly you're in a lot of trouble, and potentially you get in the way of lead lap cars. So I think we're going to see some lap traffic here probably in the next 10 lap for many of these lead lap cars here.
Already Porcelli 11 seconds off your leader, so if this margin continues, he's doing 21s compared to 19.6s, so half a second a lap, give it 10 laps, and there you go, bang on the money. Lap traffic going to be a factor again. Traino continues to lead the way after a disappointing opening couple of weeks of the season. He's bouncing back very, very nicely. Let's talk a little bit about what happened last week as well. Traino, as you know, taken full responsibility for what happened there. He didn't recognize that Blocker was still fuel saving. He thought that he could afford to attack down through turn 5, and it was just a unfortunate bit of contact. But when something like that happens, the mark of a driver is always how you bounce back from that, and to come back and race the next week, to be in the position where he is, that's what we like to see. And hopefully for the rest of the season we have a good battle, a clean battle between Blocker and Traino.
It's definitely a determined Brandon Traino that we have here today, Arjuna. He has done a great job, started up near the front and has just stayed at the front, done exactly what he needed to do, and he's kept himself well clear of Adam Blocker here today as well, so not even any opportunities for fireworks here tonight.
We do like a bit of fireworks, don't we, though? Looking now, though, at a fight between Brian Spots and Andrew Marquez as you get a look on board with that car that's worked its way up 14 positions as he searches for some clean air on the nose, getting the opportunity to run just a lane lower than Marquez in front of him. Battle for 6th as they're now 1.2 back from Alexander Van der Sande inside of the top 5. Nice little fight going on here. That's always a frustrating thing, though, when the car in front of you is running up high, and that's the line you want to run as well, and all you get is a face full of dirty air.
Yeah, so important to try and balance that momentum that you get from the high side with the clean air effect that you get from running low when the other driver's running high. And I think we're at that stage of the run right now, the same as we saw before, where Andrew Marquez, his car will come back to him relative to the other drivers, but right now his car is just really, really struggling. It's not turning the way that he wants it to or needs it to. And Brian Spots, his car seems to be handling just that little bit better, but again, just because Marquez is in that high line, it's very, very difficult to get that run for Spots and to find a way by that number 5 car of Andrew Marquez.
New generation of many different motorsports debuting this year. Formula One, NASCAR with all new formulas for how they want their cars to run. IndyCar, well, no new chassis, at least on the nearby horizon, but the IndyCar has new engine formulas coming, delayed a year to run in 2024, but the new engines got their first running out on track this very day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It was a cold day, so I'm sure that they were a little bit careful with how hard they pushed those engines, but we're talking about a significant increase in power just from the internal combustion engine. We're not even talking about the hybrid system, the spec hybrid system that will be added to the cars as well. Very excited to see what that looks like moving forward, Andrew.
Up from 2.2 to 2.4 liters, so a substantial increase in engine size. And you're absolutely right. I'm very interested to see what that extra power will do to these Indy cars, because we know that the Indy cars can definitely be some of the hardest cars to just wrestle around a circuit on the best of days. So when you get that extra power, what's going to happen? Of course, we didn't see any of the hybrid technology hooked up to the cars today. This was strictly an internal combustion unit test, but definitely something to look forward to, as Brian spots nice outside move there around the outside of Andrew Marquez.
Steals that spot away from Marquez as they find their way behind Gil Ribeiro once more. Past the magic number where you can pit and make it to the end, but you pit now, you put yourself in the danger zone. That's not something that you want to do. Chris Wilhite, by the way, running slow. He's 2 laps down on the field. Not sure if maybe he smacked himself into the wall, something that Robert Malechka had mentioned in a private conversation just a couple of laps ago, that he was, rather under the last caution, that he was a bit worried that he had run into the wall and had taken some side pod damage onto the car. But at least for now, that car looking okay, and he'll be the next one on the back of the New York native Andrew Marquez, is looking to the outside through turn 1. He'll arc himself off the corner, try and get down low coming through the dog leg, but he'll hold back for now. First and second still split by 6/10. Blocker starting to fall away. How difficult is it, Andrew, to follow third in line here?
Third in line is probably the most difficult position to be in, because you just don't get the benefit of the or you have basically double the drop, but you have double the downforce loss as well. And the downforce is more important than the draft at a track like this, where you're turning for so much of the lap and you're so reliant on whatever grip that the tires can give you, because you're basically on the edge of adhesion through all of these corners, barring that turn 1 dog leg. So it's definitely very, very important to have that clean air, or at least be second in line, because third in line, it's just so difficult to try and make this car work.
Malechka has some trouble with Crane out of turn 2, yes. Oh, still confusing me, but able to figure it out as Crane will pull off on what is, I guess, the back straight, but it's the main straight as well. It's so confusing to me, Andrew, and it's going to take me a while, I think, to get that one figured out. Turn 1 and 2, turn 3 and 4, main straight, back straight. Oh, they're making our life so difficult.
I don't know why they changed the corner numbers here, to be quite honest, but it certainly makes for more interesting commentating, we'll put it that way.
It did produce a great finish as well last year at the NASCAR Cup Series finale, right? You had wrecking to the line in all 3, I believe, of the championships across of Cup, Xfinity, trucks as well, so I guess it delivered what they wanted. I guess it's also good that, to some degree, the version of the track that we're running right now doesn't allow you to cut, as Malechka's going to pit slightly early. Don't hate this call, but where is he? He's in the danger zone. Newsom comes into pit as well. Like this call as they try and go aggressive to get the undercut working.
You've got to try something different at this point in the race. You're under 50 laps to go, 45 laps for Malechka and Newsom to go when they pit here. So you have to try something different. Figure out a way to maybe make some time that you just can't do while you're following along behind this train of cars that is out there. So yeah, definitely don't hate this, but it's gonna they're gonna have to pay the piper come the end of this race, and it'll be interesting to see whether the new tires now make a bigger difference than new tires towards the end of the race.
Remember, they will also lose an entire 2 laps because it's a 40-second delta on pit lane, basically. And there's Traino to put that second lap down. Maybe he'll give the helping hand to his teammate and fall into line. One other thing to note is, because this is a long pit entry that rounds itself through turns 3 and 4, if you run inside, you run through the boxes of your competitors, you take a shorter line, you minimize the time that you spend in pit lane. That is something that the top drivers will have noticed.
Yeah, having a curved pit lane, it really pays dividends to try and stay as close to those boxes, close to the inside of that corner as you possibly can. So I'm sure that any little advantage that you can get, that's definitely something they're going to take advantage of. But looking at this battle for the top 2, Connor Harrington is still within half a second of Brandon Traino. Really, really impressive stuff from that Team Talent driver. Yeah, no, doing great. Blocker 1 second off the back of second as we get towards 40 to go. Lap time for Newsom last time by was a 19.432. Blocker a 19.7. I'd wager that if you're Blocker, maybe it would have been wise to respond, although I guess he is gambling. Like you said, Andrew, he'll have the tires at the end of the run to make the difference as they get closer and closer to the pit stop window for them. Yeah, so the one thing about pitting later here is that you have less fuel when you leave the pit box, and when you have less fuel, you have less weight in the car, and it puts less energy through the tires, so the tires just last longer when you have less fuel to start your run. So that's, I think, what Blocker is really thinking here, is he wants to go as long as possible, keep the car as light as possible for this final run, and maybe, just maybe, he can make the car and the tires work well enough to make this strategy work.
But, and at the same time, right, even though you're putting less fuel into the car, you're limited in terms of your pit stop time by the tire change variable rather than the amount of fuel that you put into the car. So it's basically going to be the same 8-second pit stop for all of these competitors. See how it plays out. Newsom last time by 19.542 compared to a 19.723 for Blocker, who is faster than Traino, but a little bit slower than Harrington, because you can see there is more lap traffic that's going to play a factor. Can Harrington use this to his advantage?
Yeah, Traino's car just doesn't seem to be working well in traffic, and we saw that a little bit with Alexis Newsom as well, as she just wasn't able to stay up with Adam Blocker towards the end of her stint here, and I think that Traino might even be coming to the pits lane here. Yes, he is.
So Harrington, will inherit the race lead as a result. I think good call from Traino. Van der Sant will pit as well as he tries to work his way closer to the podium spot. There's Traino going to the inside. That's what I was talking about. Knowing where you'll find the gain on pit lane. In real world competition, well, it will be very much frowned upon, but here in iRacing, not an issue. Van der Sant not as aggressive to cut his way through.
Yeah, of course, Van der Sant, he has his pit stall much farther back in pit lane, and Harrington responds immediately to Brandon Traino there. Adam Blocker, though, stays out on track.
Yeah. Now it will be more about, I think, where Blocker comes out in comparison to Newsom than anything else. Maybe just extending this as long as possible, partly because of the threat of what happens under caution. There's Traino back up to speed. About 2 seconds clear of his teammate Alexis Newsom. Where's Connor Harrington in comparison? Still yet to release himself off the limiter. As there he is, green cones mark the time when you release yourself from that pedestrian speed limit, and he's going to come out alongside with Brandon Traino, but superior momentum powers him back to the race lead. Alexis Newsom about 1 second back from Connor Harrington. Indicates to me it's already done. No matter when Blocker comes in, he's basically relying on the end of this race to get back up to the third step of the podium, as here he comes down onto pit lane.
Yeah, there's almost no one better on pit lane than Brandon Traino, but Adam Blocker, this is all that it comes down to for him. Whether he stays on that podium or whether Alexis Newsom will be able to overtake him, it all comes down to this pit stop. It's so important that he gets through, and he's not cutting the pit lane as much as some of the i5G teams were, so that's a very interesting call from Blocker, not getting every last tenth out of it, and he might regret that come when he gets released here.
We saw the same from Alexander Van der Sant, but here he goes. Much earlier to be able to get to the line in comparison to Van der Sant, but already working out of turn 4. There goes Newsom sailing off into the... In fact, no, excuse me. It's a different red and white car, but it doesn't matter. Same result. Newsom in front of Adam Blocker, and Blocker now reliant on these last 30 laps, having the tires to work his way to the front. Still a couple of cars yet to come down in pit, includes Marco Brazil, includes Laura Gerhardt. Alexis Newsom, 15 laps ago is when she came down pit lane. Adam Blocker, 2 laps out of the pit lane.
And I will say that having 13 laps fresher tires, doing math on the fly there, having 13 lap fresher tires for Adam Blocker, that will be a significant advantage for him. But I just don't think that it's going to be a big enough advantage, because especially at the beginning of the run, that i5G car is just really, really strong. So it'll be a tough ask for Blocker to get by, and he's got a lot of traffic to deal with, too wide in front of him.
It's Porcelli in front, and then not sure exactly who that is. Might be David Henger, but he gets past both, does lose a bit of ground. 8/10 back from Newsom. In front of him, still waiting for Gerhardt and Brazil to come onto pit lane, but Harrington a full second back. Basically the same tire wear for those two cars. 1 lap splits them. It's going to be determined on track. The last time the iRacing IndyCar Open Series came here, it was a photo finish, or rather a dramatic finish between Newsom and forget exactly who it was, but this is a track where you can have close finishes. I just don't think with the conditions where we are, much warmer than the last time we came racing here, Andrew, I don't think we're set up for that dramatic of an end to this race.
You say that, Arjuna, but at the same time, one caution, and that could change literally everything here, especially with the lower fuel and shorter tire run. We could be in for a finish if we do get a caution, but I do think you're right. Harrington, he just has come out just that little bit too far behind Brandon Traino. Traino did an excellent job on pit lane, did exactly what he needed to do, and he's just got a little bit too far ahead, but just a little bit further back. Adam Blocker right on the back of Alexis Newsom right now.
Yeah, really has closed on down now. This is probably the point where Newsom's tires are starting to give up the ghost, and Blocker gets that message and gets right onto the pressure machine as here we go down into turn one. A little bit of lap traffic. Blocker goes down low, and Newsom, how long can she hold on for? It's not if, but when this is going to happen. That lap traffic might play a factor as well as they work their way through turns 3 and 4. Blocker gets very close to pushing Newsom up into the wall, but still side by side. It's been going on for a mile, but surely now Blocker gets it done and nose in front as they round themselves through 1 and 2, excuse me. There we go, move done and dusted.
Really nice move there from Adam Blocker. He really hasn't been able to make that outside line work, but just that fresh tire advantage, it allowed him to take that inside line, maintain his momentum on the inside like we haven't seen him be able to do all race long, and he is back into the podium position. So definitely a relief, I'm sure, for Adam Blocker in that car, because he was definitely for a while, I'm sure, just sweating bullets, making sure that he could actually get back into the same position he was before.
He's though about 3.5 seconds though back from that battle for the lead, so that's going to be a somewhat of a disappointing factor for him, as Gerhard, yet to come down pit lane, will take the race lead over from Marco Brazil, who's come in this last time by the Indy Alliance cars. Great qualifying, but race pace, race comfortability in that setup struggling. AJ Musselman down into 12th position. Marco Brazil will fall back as well. Maybe that call to come onto pit lane an additional time compared to the rest of the field not working out in their favor.
Yeah, it just didn't quite work out the way they wanted it to. If they had gotten a caution during that pit stop cycle, it very easily could have turned into a 1-2 finish for the Indy Alliance team, but because of how much green flag running we've had, it just hasn't worked out that way. But Brandon Traino at the front clearly has been the class of the field, barring the continued pressure that Harrington has put him under throughout most of the second half of this race. But Harrington, he just can't get any closer than about 1 second right now, Arjuna.
Yeah, he's in this kind of bubble right now with 19 to go, 18 next time we cross the stripe. Great angle, it gives you that sense of speed we're getting right now as well. Upwards of 300 kilometers an hour as they dive their way into the corners.
And I think that if Harrington is able to get maybe like 2 or 3 tenths closer to Traino, he could really start to pull himself back up towards the back of him. But where he is right now, he's just in that spot where the dirty air just overcomes any benefit he gets from the draft that he is getting at this point. If he gets a little bit closer, that draft just becomes that much more powerful. So it's one of those games right now where he's only got 17 laps to find just those inches every lap, those tenths and hundredths of a second to try and get himself into a position. And if he can find that way, maybe we can have a battle to the end. But as of right now, Traino seems like he's just in control.
Haven't seen too much side by side for the lead. We've seen it further back. We have seen passes as well made on strategy. You think to Newsom and Blocker, but it's going to be a large margin to overcome, coming to 15 to go. As there is the marker, 15 laps to go. Short tracks are, if you ask me, the most difficult thing we do here in IndyCar. The super speedways have their own sort of challenge. That's a more cerebral challenge. Of course, handling these cars in some of the street courses as well. For example, Long Beach in a week it's a much more physical challenge. Here, though, it is just about keeping control of these cars, Andrew, keeping on top of your tools, and it's one where if you're a road expert who's transitioning to IndyCar, this is where it becomes so much more difficult to find the tricks, find the ability to extract speed from a car.
It's 100% a mental game on a short track like this. Once you get into the race, your setup is what it is, and your job as a driver is to find just those extra few hundredths of a second a lap. And that's all you're looking for, and it takes so much discipline to be able to find those extra hundredths. But right now, things might be just heating up here because Brandon Traino's in a lot of traffic. AJ Musselman not wanting to go down a lap, and it's allowing Connor Harrington back into this race. This is the opening that Harrington might just have needed.
Under half a second, closing actually under 0.4 of a second as Harrington got a much easier ride, but now a car splits them. One more lapped car to play a factor potentially. I believe that's Laura Gerhard in the green and white Powerslide Motorsports car. Under 0.4 of a second, coming to 10 to go. The time is now. If Harrington wants to make the pass, he's got to close a couple more car lengths.
If it's going to happen, it's going to happen in these next 10 laps, and Harrington has put himself in exactly the right position. He's saved his tires. He's sat behind Traino. He's studied him. This is all that it comes down to for Connor Harrington, and lap by lap, corner by corner, Harrington is just pulling just that little bit closer. He really does seem like his car can stay under him just that little bit better than Brandon Traino's can, but can he find a way and find the right line to get by Brandon Traino?
Now I'll ask you, Andrew, does the 1 lap difference on the tires mean anything at this point in the run? Traino's been out there for 27 laps and counting.
I don't think that it makes that big of a difference, but what I think makes a difference is that Connor Harrington's setup just seems to be able to hold on just that little bit better than Brandon Traino's has. And he's able to take care of the tires, and when it comes down to it, that little bit of a difference is going to make a huge difference, especially when you have a car like Laura Gerhard right in front, who's not quite close enough to be letting these leaders by, but she is close enough to be giving a lot of dirty air to Brandon Traino. We've already talked about how Alexis Newsom didn't look that happy following along behind Adam Blocker. I think this could be the exact same scenario. Traino's just not happy when he's not in the lead of the race, and it's giving Connor Harrington potentially one last final shot at this.
So 2 factors to remember. Gerhard has fresh tires, but so does Marco Brazil, who's closing from behind. How aggressive is he going to be to try and get back out onto the lead lap? We saw this play a factor a couple of races ago, but keep in mind, at this point, we are reaching the point of no return where a caution would end the race, and as he dives down low, that might be the opportunity for Brandon Traino to get on through to try and build up that buffer. Brazil backs out for now.
Now, you and I both know this, that Connor Harrington is not going to let Marco Brazil get by easily, but if I were Connor Harrington, I would probably just let Marco get by and see if he doesn't just go after Brandon Traino. And that might be one way that Harrington can get there, but hopefully Brazil will back off, realizing that there's only 4 laps to go and these leaders are really fighting it out here. And I think that Brazil has in fact done that, and he is now content to stay behind, but that might just have been enough for Brandon Traino to get just that little bit of an advantage over Connor Harrington here.
We are well and truly past that point of no return, and you're right, Brazil has backed out. About 5 car lengths back now from that number 11 private label Team Hype machine. 2 laps to go as they cross the line, 2 miles left to decide this race. Gerhard gets out of the way. Traino will be thanking his lucky stars.
Very nice driving there from Laura Gerhard, and you're absolutely right. I think Brandon Traino owes Laura Gerhard a steak dinner after that one, because that's exactly what he needed to potentially take this home. He's got 1 more lap. He's got Connor Harrington closing as fast as he can, but I think he's got just enough here.
Half a lap to go. Several cautions have disrupted the flow of this race. It's been difficult to pass for the lead, but Connor Harrington has harangued Brandon Traino to the best of his abilities. 7 days after disaster for Brandon Traino, he bounces back with victory in the desert. He conquers the Phoenix Raceway and wins for the first time this season. Valiant effort from Connor Harrington, but the traffic gave him an opportunity. Maybe the traffic took it away as well. Adam Blocker rounds out the podium after a difficult qualifying performance for the Powerslide Motorsports team, but there's no happier man here in Phoenix than that man, Brandon Traino.
Absolutely, the monkey is off Brandon Traino's back. He didn't have the best of times at Texas, had the worst of times at Road Atlanta, but now he's finally back in victory lane, and that was just a dominant performance from Brandon Traino. He did exactly what he needed to do, finished just strong enough to keep Connor Harrington at bay. Really, really nice driving here, and it definitely answers the question. I5G is here to play here this season, Arjuna. They are looking to get that championship back from the Powerslide Motorsports bunch.
Nice controlled burnout. It's almost as though he knows how to do it and has got plenty of practice. Let's have a look then at our race results 150 laps later. That 3-car into victory lane for the Apex Racing team with Team i5G. Great drive from Connor Harrington, less than half a second back to sit on the second step of the podium, while Adam Blocker 4.3 back. Maybe that decision to stay out the longest of everybody came back to drop him out of the battle for the lead. Alexis Newsom pitted early, only 6/10 back from Adam Blocker in the end. Not the worst of days for that Team i5G car, but after pole position for her, that long pit stop in that first phase of the race really did cost her dearly. Alexander Van der Sant with a remarkable recovery drive. 15 places recovered as he gets up into the top 5, while Robert Malechka, after boxing early, at the very least secures a 6th place finish in that #1 machine. Andrew Marquez will line up 7th after struggling in the early portions of this race, while Rashad Craig up 10, Brian Spots up 12, Marco Brazil rounding out the top 10 after losing 5 positions to start this race off. AJ Musselman, the first car, 1 lap down. The second car, 1 lap down. Final car on that benchmark is David Henger. Laura Gerhardt got out of the way to help Brandon Traino into victory lane. Chris Wilhite, Aaron McQuarrie, David Porcelli. The cars making it to the checkered flag. Then you find the cars that had issues. None more significant than Adam Crane, who had a bit of contact with Adam Blocker, dropping him down to 17th. Gil Ribeiro struggled with the pace. He was down in 18th. Robin Glennix, Rodrigo Franzoni through the top 20. Final car in the grid here today was the All-American iRacers number 12 of Matt Hollabo. Very frustrated with how he got taken out of the race, but then that's how racing goes sometimes, and we've definitely see Matt Hollabo back in a couple of weeks' time when we go to Auto Club, a place where I'm sure he will be the aggressor over there. A couple of moments while we wait for Brandon Traino to join us from victory lane, but a quick recap of what we saw, Andrew. Third week, third different discipline of American Open Wheel Racing, and well, Brandon Traino shows why he's so versatile. Remember, this is the season where we build up to the iRacing Indy 500.
Yeah, and momentum is so important as you approach the month of May. It's one of those things where you just need to feel good about yourself in every aspect, whether it's the setup for the month of May itself or whether it's the momentum that you get from racing in a series like this and just building yourself up, building up that confidence, building up the confidence in your team, in your car control, everything. So seeing Brandon Traino at the peak of his performance like we did here today, I think this portends well for him in terms of his attempt at one more Indy 500 crown here in the month of May.
Let's not dawdle. Let's go down to victory lane, where after a hellacious incident last week for him, he's at least back on fighting form and in victory lane. Brandon, talk to us about that race. Talk to us about the long runs here at Phoenix.
Yeah, it's good to be back in victory lane after some not so good last couple of weeks. But yeah, the car was on rails. You guys at i5G and Apex Racing really came out this week. We struggled quite a bit on short ovals, and not really been our strong suit. So to come out here and you know, Alexis dominate the first half of the race, and then unfortunately she got a little bit of a pit mistake, but I took the lead and you know, never really looked back.
Looks like you guys had a bit of struggles in dirty air with that traffic. Was that something that we were wrong about, or was that setup really just working perfectly in clean air and compromised a bit more when you were following the slower cars?
I'd say compromised a little bit. If you're referencing to the last, 20 laps behind Laura, I was a little bit tight, but she was on fresher tires, so the pace difference wasn't going to really do anything. I couldn't close to try to pass her, so it was more so me just managing the gap to Connor. Really, I wasn't pushing super hard because I didn't want to burn up the tires, and 2, stuff it in the wall. But yeah, I mean, we've compromised a little bit for clean air, but we still felt pretty confident in traffic as well.
Well, you owe a steak dinner to both Marco Brazil and to Laura Gerhardt, because the way they helped you in traffic there a little bit might just have been beneficial. But looking forward now, we've got Long Beach in a week's time, Auto Club after that, and then I know your favorite track is the Nürburgring Nordschleife. But it's
That's
really
lies.
We know we're going to see you there. We know we're going to see you there. But, I mean, this is such a fun calendar, right? I mean, now that you've got, like you said, the monkey off your back, surely your spirits are lifted for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, it feels good. I believe you have the wrong paint scheme. I don't believe I resubmitted it. We went back to the blue car because the guys at I5G are convinced that that red car is cursed.
It's not cursed anymore.
It's not cursed anymore, but I was personally running the blue car, so yeah, no, it's a good calendar, it's a good schedule. Yeah, I'm kind of doing this for fun. I'm not really in for the points anymore. We've started to shift our focus towards the 500, so.
Well, I tell you what, if the red doesn't work out, maybe you can steal Zach Campbell's gold. How about that one? Congratulations, Brandon, and hopefully we'll see you in 7 days' time as we go to the streets of Long Beach.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All the way to the end was Brandon Trainer by Connor Harrington. He's standing by with Andrew Kinsella.
Connor, you did everything you could, but in the end, you came up just a little bit short on Brandon Traino. Take us through those last 30 or so laps here, trying to chase him down.
Yeah, Traino just ended up beating me to the punch there on the undercut. I was kind of hoping to do the undercut there, but you can't do it too early because you just don't want to be caught out by the yellow. So, I don't know, the car had great pace tonight. We were on rails late in the stint. It got interesting there with a little bit of help from lap traffic, but it just didn't play out the way that we needed it to play out. But we'll take a good P2.
Yeah, and you mentioned how well your car held in there. Talk us through a little bit earlier on in the race where you didn't have the best qualifying effort, but you and Adam Blocker and Adam Crane really had some spirited battles there at the beginning of the race as well.
Oh yeah, it was a good battle. The move we made around the outside of Blocker was pretty good. That was an enjoyable one. Yeah, I don't know, just totally bottled the Q lap. We had a better Q setup than that. We just bottled it, so it made it interesting. But yeah, just this tire lets you lean on it a little bit more, and if you can really extract the fine margins out of the tire, then you can really gain some speed there at the end later on in the run.
Now, looking ahead, we are very, very close to the month of May. How goes Private Label Team Hype and Team Talent's preparation for that month, and how are you going to use this result in second place here to sort of build your way and build some momentum towards that Indy 500 in the month of May?
Yeah, it's crazy. We're already talking about it, and we're not even done with March yet. Preparations are great. Obviously, I was really fortunate to be brought into the Team Talent organization at the beginning of last year. That kind of all tied in with getting picked up by Private Label and racing with Josh and Jason. But yeah, we had good cars last year. We missed a little bit on Q. Maybe if track position's a little bit of a different story, maybe who knows, maybe we'll have a pretty good month of May, but it's early to tell. Who knows, they could come out with another race with another Indy, and we could be starting all over again from scratch. That's kind of the craziness of it, but we're excited as we look forward to Indianapolis.
Awesome. Well, good luck in the month of May and in your preparations, and congrats on the second place here today.
Yep, thanks guys.
So that's Connor Harrington rounding out the podium after a tough qualifying for the entire Powerslide Motorsports crew. Is Adam Blocker. Adam, talk to us first about qualifying. Looks like you guys just didn't have it dialed in to go fast here.
I actually think we had a pretty solid qualifying set, to be honest with you, but the weather in this session was quite a bit different, and the server all the servers I'd been practicing, you could go flat in 3 and 4 and on the hot lap, and that was not the case in this session, at least on our. Like, it would have needed a slight lift, and I think if I had done that slight lift, I would have ended up okay, but in the end I tried to go flat and I got super loose and had to lift big time, so I lost a ton of time. So I think I could have easily started top 3, but just kind of screwed it up.
How much fun is short track racing, Adam? We were talking about this on the broadcast. American open wheel racing is all about mastering different disciplines, and this is likely one of the most difficult for someone who's brand new to this sort of racing. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. I just wish that there was a lot more tire deg, because right now the tire model on these is pretty shit, to be honest. The fall-off was only 3 or 4 tenths, and real life, if they came here, the fall-off would be 2 seconds. So I think that would make the racing a lot better, because you would see a lot more difference in setups, and you would actually be able to pass lap cars and stuff. It was just, it's just kind of what it was. But you know, in the end, it's still a lot of fun, and yeah, a big challenge to set up for, especially.
Let's talk about the new engines, which got their first run out in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway today. How excited are you? You know, part of Ilmore, how's the crew been working? But what's this mean for the future of IndyCar? Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I think the main thing that people, you know, are going to care about is just going to be a lot more power. That with the hybrid unit, just the internal combustion engine and the new hybrid unit, like the rules are just making it so that there's going to be a lot more power in the car, so that's going to be a big challenge on the road courses, especially for traction. And then it also means, depending on what they do with the Indy qualifying rules, there could be some really big speeds in qualifying. So I think that's the main thing. And yeah, and then just on our side, it's going to be a huge challenge because the rules are going to be really open. So there's a real possibility of there being massive differences between Honda and Chevy. So, you know, it's going to be super important to on the engineering side to do a good job, and super important for the teams to, you know, to have the right engine. So,
well, thanks for joining us, Adam. Good luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully we'll see you in a week's time at Long Beach and the week after that as well.
Yep, see you guys there.
Adam Blocker rounds out the podium positions as we wrap up our coverage here from the desert. Let's look at the schedule very quickly. As I mentioned, the NTT IndyCar Series heads to the streets of Long Beach. We head to the International City as well. And Andrew, coming off the race at Long Beach in the Lionheart IndyCar Series, what are we expecting here? We saw so much attrition in that race, but it was a huge grid. We're talking 40-plus cars. We'll see a smaller field in 7 days' time, but it's still going to be a very difficult challenge just to make it to the end.
Street racing in IndyCar, there's no bigger challenge on iRacing, in my opinion, Arjuna, just because the walls are so close, the margins are so thin, and in a series like this where the competition is so high, just like in the Lionheart Series, it means that everyone is going to have to take risks that they wouldn't necessarily be comfortable taking, and I think will produce a fair amount of attrition. There'll be some incidents happening on track, but at the same time, I think that we're going to see some very, very tight battles, some hopefully some passing into turn one especially, and it should be a real treat to watch.
Well, same time, same place. You're live on RaceSpotTV, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Don't miss it as we get you set for that weekend's Grand Prix on the streets of Long Beach. For now, though, it is time to wave you goodbye from the desert. The Phoenix Raceway, slightly different configuration, but the same short track, difficult racing for these competitors. But the monkey is off. Brandon Traino's back. He finds his way back into victory lane. Sounds happy. As an ominous sign for his competitors heading in to the 13th running of the iRacing Indianapolis 500. For now, though, we wave you goodbye on behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV. For my co-commentator and Andrew Kinsella, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Signing off for now. We'll see you from the streets of the International City in 7 days' time. Congratulations to Brandon Traino, winner here at the Phoenix Raceway.